that space and being heard is one of the best things about being a storyteller. You know, I have been off myself I just started back really last week. I've been off for a month because of just an accumulation of stress with what's going on in the world. And over the last 10 months, I have had to say goodbye to 3 of my pets. So while I was off for a month, I lost my 3rd pet. And it's been really challenging to deal with that. And for the first time, I recognized that I can't do everything all at once, and I needed to take some time and just recover from that. So I still consider myself kind of an amateur at dealing with emotions. And because during the summer, I had run out of last year's marijuana harvest and had to purchase marijuana, which stretched my ODSP budget to the snapping point. And so I had switched medications for sleeping, which did not help my depression. So I was just generally in like a really bad, ready to collapse condition. So that's what I did. And my storytelling friends and the people that I hang with at Bedford House were nothing but supportive. There was just, I had the space to rest. I had compassion and kindness, which is still a new experience for me. So it brought home to me again that even though my pet family has really shrunk, I have a life that's filled with kind and caring people. So it was easy for me to move towards some gratitude when I thought about that. And even though, you know, dealing with loss is very hard, it's good to have people that care about you, that support you whenever. So it's very cool. When I started with Bedford House, I know a couple of people here in the building where I lived, and you know, one of them and me went to the meetings that started here when we didn't have any funding. And over the course of, I think it's almost 3 years now, I have, you know, this is how my life has grown to be full of kind and caring people. It's the people that I met through Bedford House. And there's been so much laughter and fun. And, you know, we're learning how to podcast together. Last week when we were writing a podcast, I wrote in the script that when I moved here to Bedford House, to the Mount, 3.5 years ago, I had not had a phone for 5 years. So the fact that, you know, I can Zoom with you all on a laptop, it's pretty huge. And, you know, my friends helped me through this. I'm really not technically skilled. So often part of the meetings is occupied by me saying, guys, when my laptop does this, what do I need to, you know, what can I click to make it stop? And, you know, we all help each other to move forward. And when, you know, stuff happens, when Leanne's foot was in commission twice this summer, Leanne has driven me to the family cemetery in the woods to bury my pets. You know, that's not something you can lightly ask of a friend. So I feel like joining Bedford House and being part of the Getting Ahead group and then moving into the bridging team, which spawned storytelling, which spawned podcasting. And in between, we do facilitator training. These are things that have brought my life balance. You know, helped me to recognize that there are good people, even though I had not had previous experience of same. Now I have nothing but. So it's been a really solid spiritually educational experience for me. I think I'm good.
Oh yeah, no, that sounds like, thank you so much. And you've already said like Bedford House and bridging teams and storytellers, now podcasts. And it really seems that everyone here has been part of this journey and continuing to see like what's next. So that's really exciting. Greg, how were you involved with storytellers so far?
Sure, thank you. I just thought I would talk about how I know the people on the screen. So Laura was just speaking, and she's my neighbor, and she and I went through a bridging team together that was facilitated by Todd. So that's how I met Todd. And this led to the Storytellers group. And the Storytellers are interested in changing the conversation about poverty. And we're doing that in part through a podcast. And myself and Laura and Todd and LA, who is also on the screen, is involved in this podcast. And we're all working together. So as you just heard from Laura, it's a whole matrix of organizations and groups coming together, and the Storytellers is one of them. And I've been in it from the start with these three people, and not here today is Kathy and Ralph, who are also involved in changing the conversation about poverty. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just running out of stuff to say. I didn't really have too much of a plan. I just wanted to get some of the details of what our group is out there, and who these people are on the screen for anybody who's watching, how we
Right.
know each other, that kind of thing. Go
That was
ahead.
beautiful. No, I love it. I love when I asked you the question of like, what's your story? And you're like, the story is relationships. That's what you just did. And the story is like every single person on the screen I'm connected to in some important way, that we have that trust with each other. So that was beautiful. Thank you. And so, Todd, you were named as a facilitator of one of these early conversations, and being there. And so that's a little bit of a different experience, but really like not like being part of this conversation in community. So let's hear your story.
Okay, yeah. I I have been dealing with Bedford House. Well, maybe dealing isn't the best word. I've been having the pleasure of being involved with Bedford House for it's probably getting on to be 3 years. So I first started in the first bridging team that they had, and it was more or less, and I was just in the transition of trying to make changes in my life, and it became the perfect thing to, you know, uh, emphasize and help to make the final decision that I was going on the right path, that I was moving towards something. Because in the first bridging team, I actually came up with a sort of a life plan that I hadn't had for quite a long time. So it was a wonderful thing that happened like that. So when I realized that that Bedford House had a lot of ideals that I wanted to move forward with, they kind of asked me to keep doing things, and I just said, for sure, it's just something wonderful. So as Greg had mentioned, I became a co-facilitator for the second bridging team, and that is wonderful. And during that time, the Storyteller Catalysts group came up, and and it was, and it just got me, because I believe 100% that the conversation needs to be changed about poverty. It's it's always it's usually not it's usually biased, we'll say, that about the conversation for poverty. So I want to get my voice out there to say, well, no, like a lot of things are a lot of things happen to all people, not just in particular people who have, well, we'll say, who have less finances. So yeah, and I've and I just love the fact, I think that their Lynn and Alan's ideals are just wonderful, and I want to follow through with them as long as I can. So that's pretty much my story. And from even from way back, I think I think I'm one of the few that's been involved since the first one. I think there's only a couple of us that are involved from the first one. So I until they tell me to leave, I'm not leaving.
Uh, I love so much of what you've just said. And I also am really hearing like to change the narrative about poverty, you have to be willing to change yourself. It was really interesting. Like that's the goal. And yet you started with how it was about your own peace and how
Yeah,
that relationship is even so important.
yeah.
Great. LA, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. I'm just sitting here wishing that Wordle thing where you put in all the words and then the most important words pop out. Like I like to take notes. So my important words are relationships, community, and then I wrote down like we just really want to keep spreading this. Like it has become like our foundation, and the idea that um, we are in a better life position now since coming together as a group. I don't know, I feel I am in terms of relationships. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I have a really strong group of people that I can call for anything. Like if I fall down or something, hypothetically speaking. Um, but I, we know this works. Um, it, from those relationships, Greg was talking about how this spun out of this, and like it's become like this safe haven for our creativity where our voice matters. We're not coming to the any group with a list of ideas in our head that we think, oh, I might get a chance to say one of these. Like they're all coming out. Like we're going to make Laura do it first and then we'll all follow suit. Like that's just how we seem to roll. And it yeah, like we're learning, like the podcasts you've heard about, we're learning how to like stay, how to like we value these relationships so much, it's worth working through all of our quirks. And I don't know, but like it might be coming, like we've got some quirks in our group, like we are some quirky people, but like I've never felt so free to let my quirks fly. I don't know. um but it's just like that safe space.
Yeah, and I will echo that. Just before we started this recording, we did the check-ins, and I instantly felt so comfortable to share something that was on my heart. So I appreciate that happened so quickly and so genuinely with all of you. So, Alan, we have been hearing from these storytellers and all these great stories and like impacts. How, like, what is this that we're talking about? We kind of went backwards on it, which is amazing to hear like the journey and like the impacts and like the relationships. And thank you, LA, for your words there on community. But like, what is this?
Yeah, yeah. It's it's an experiment in community. It's I've been doing community ministry, working in anti-poverty and social innovation for 30 years. And this is a unique experience for me. And it's the stories. It's the stories. You're just getting a taste of them. But what the experiment is, it comes out of uh, an educational framework called Bridges Out of Poverty that comes from the States. And my partner, Lynn Smith-Reeve, discovered it. And it really spoke to her. It spoke to her experience of raising 5 kids and a disabled husband on ODSP for close to 20 years. And it spoke to a couple of things. One is like, we really talk about the hidden rules of class. And so part of the process of meeting together, retired middle class mentors and people like this amazing group of people who have lived experience of poverty. When we start to uncover our assumptions and our biases and privileges, and so we what's emerging is all these individual stories, but also like a collective story about, it's not, poverty's not the problem. We live in such a wealthy country, community. It's a lack of imagination about how to share resources, about how to redistribute wealth. That's the problem. And so, yeah, we've been creating these bridging teams and something called the Neighbor Network, and now these conversation changers are podcasting. And we're just hoping to stir people's imagination about, yeah, how do we redistribute our wealth? We make out our checks to charities or give to the good causes, but to get involved in relationships with our neighbors, and that's been fascinating. That's been a learning journey. So yeah, we keep learning and loving it.
Yeah. I love that it's how you've named it as a lack of imagination. And it really seems like Bedford House and the bridging teams and the storytellers and now the podcast, there really is no lack of imagination of what's happening right now. So one of the questions I know I had kind of primed you for is like, what are folks hopeful of? Like, where do you see this going? Maybe do you have a new idea that you want to experiment with? Like, just throwing it out there. If you have something, let us know. And it's okay if you don't.
We applied for a grant recently to start another bridging team aimed at young people with mental health issues and searching for mentors who would have some experience in that field to support them. So I know my life would have been vastly different if I had received some mental health assistance in my youth. So that really, it runs deep in me, the desire to offer other people the possibilities that I did not have. So that's where I would like to go.
Great. Anyone else?
Well, one of the things we've been trying to do is bring people together physically for food, and with the COVID situation, it's made that difficult. So we're hoping that the COVID situation resolves itself and we can get back to doing what we like to do sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, we've been trying to make the best of it with Zoom, and we hope to keep doing that and bringing people together the best way we can digitally.
Great.
Kat is working on the new launch for the website, and my interest is like technology and computers, so I'm hoping our futures cross within Bedford House, so that like I just like to document all along, like I take pictures and stuff, so just different multimedia things. I think that Kat has so many skills that I would like to like extract from her and like share these wonderful stories. And Greg has them all cataloged, so I just feel like the website, the new one, I'm excited.
Great. Just honoring each other's gifts at this point too. Wonderful.
I guess I'll throw in a quick thing here is that my whole thing about this when I started in the other bridging team is that the first thing I thought of, and it's followed me ever since then, is everybody should experience this, is because it helped me so much, and I would love it if it could help somebody else as much as it has helped me. If I can spit that out. Yeah, and that is my whole thing. And and I'm seeing that now with the new people. They're new to me because I'm, but second round of people. I see that it has done that, and it just kind of makes my heart happy that, you know, that I am seeing people get positive experiences and, you know, good things moving forward. So, you know, I'm really happy about that. So this is I'm not the only one who has received the benefits of this. So yeah, I'm really happy about that.
So there's no shortage of ideas amongst everyone here. So lack of imagination, like I said. Um, Before we sign out, I did want to ask everyone for one word that really, like what LA said, there's a bunch of words that were popping up with the Wordle idea. But I'd love to check out of like, does everyone have one word that you're kind of feeling about this conversation, but about storytelling and like, how are you feeling? For me, my one word that I have felt so quickly in this conversation was love.
Gratitude. And may I take a screenshot? Everybody? Okay,
Sure.
thank you. Since we're going like nationwide, I want to document the moment. Nationwide in my jammies, that's even better. Thank you.
Amazing. Greg?
Yes, I like the word imagination. It came up today, and I know Laura has said it's the 12th essential resource, and I think it's a very important word. Thank you. Todd?
Yeah, one word, that's a really tough call because there is so many words that can describe what we're doing here. But I think um I'm really this is really tough coming up with one in particular. So
You can have two. Sure.
okay, yeah, I think our community, it's one would be community because our community is grown and is growing, I would even say almost exponentially. And and I think our relationships are just, they just bind and bond us together. That is, and that's just so incredible. So yeah.
Well, Todd, mine was relationships, but now I'm going to say meaningful, or whatever tense would fit in there. Meaningfulness. I don't know. My teaching days are over. Alan?
Alan gets the last word.
I can't do it in one word. I've got three words. We're creating this facilitator guide, and the storytellers are helping us to keep it as concrete as possible. And so our three pillars are hospitality, dignity, and curiosity. Yeah, that's it.
Well, thanks everyone. This was really inspiring for me and so wonderful to have everyone's voices here today. Let's go national.